Hola a todos y bienvenidos a un nuevo video, este tiempo sobre GCSE, Spanish Essay Writing. Now, this is specifically for GCSE, not for A-level. I'll have a separate video about A-levels because it's a massive step up. It really is. But for GCSE, the topics are a lot softer. You go from writing about your year in school or a holiday you went on to some very technical topics relating to modern technology, current affairs, social issues, politics. But sticking it with GCSE, the topic is easy. You can make up most of it, which means you can fit a lot of space in your head for the Spanish content that you can show off in this essay. Because whilst it may be about quite a basic topic, you're still expected to write about 250 to 300 words. And I would say the best two things to remember before remembering everything else is, one, before you start writing your essay, write a little checklist in the black rectangle box. I think OCR do like little corners, so you don't know if you're like in the middle side of the page, like middle top or middle right, you don't know if you've gone over. But I know AQA and EdXL is a proper box. Outside of that box doesn't get scanned. So just write little notes, whatever shorthand you can find, of all the stuff I'm going to tell you to include in the essay in there beforehand. Be crafty with some of these. If you can, as many times as you can, kill two birds with one stone. Because along with getting all these grammatical features in your essay, you've also got to talk about the topic in hand and do both within the 300 words. Now I'll go into the grammar points and I'll start off with pronouns. Definitely have at least one sentence that involves an indirect object and a direct object pronoun, so you can show what order they're in, also what they are. And the sentence order, that is the most important thing to show, because I'm sure you know it goes indirect object pronoun, direct object pronoun, verb, and if you need it, before all of that, the subject pronoun. And also you could include some non-clause of the sentence section specific pronouns that are the same wherever, such as someone, no one, nothing. The next one is with prepositions. You can, if you want, include some of the more complex ones like detrás de, enfrente de. If you're talking about your town, they're quite important. But the two I would say definitely include is por and para, because of course in English they both sort of kind of translate as for, whereas in Spanish they each have their own meaning that you can't really apply to English prepositions. So include both of them at least once. The way you should be writing it should probably each be included twice or three times, but include both at least once. Now the next one is a rule that applies to both adjectives and connectives. Even though they're very different types of words, the one rule is never use the same one twice unless you've utterly blanked out of any synonyms for them. Because no one wants to be reading a Spanish essay where y, pero, and por eso each turn up 6 times. You are probably going to have to use y 3 or 4 times, but only use pero once, if not at all. You've got no obstante, sin embargo, and with por eso you can say por lo tanto. Ideally make like a little grid and have a group of similar words in English, because you can say a whole range of things. It may be 2 or 3 words, but it shows that you know a range of synonyms. And the same for adjectives. No one wants to read an essay where everything is bonita, interesante, bueno. It's super boring, and there are plenty of synonyms for most adjectives, as there are in English, and most of them are cognates, so it should be very easy to think in your mind. And the next thing to also follow this rule, it's not a type of word, but it's expressing opinions. Don't constantly just use the verb creer. There's opinar, pensar, and then you can also say a mi modo de ver, en mi parecer, en mi opinión. Or you could mask your opinion into using the subjunctive by saying, like, en mi parecer es imprescindible que, and then you'd go into the subjunctive. Or lo mejor es que, subjunctive. One thing you should also really focus on putting in there. Don't go crazy with these, but show that you know that English and Spanish cannot be directly translated, and put in some of those set phrases. One of my favourites was tener ganas, to be looking forward to. And another good example of this that gives you about 4 or 5 is talking about the weather. Of course, they don't say it's sunny, they say it makes sunshine, it makes heat. And now, finally, the last big topic to make sure you include in your essay, verbs. This will definitely be that you should focus on most, and that the examiner's probably going to focus on most. The range of verb tenses and odd grammar bits within verbs that you can show off. You're going to automatically use the present. You're going to automatically probably feel drawn to use the preterite. Definitely make sure you use all 3 types of expected past. There are 4 past tenses in Spanish. Pluperfect, you have to weave it into a sentence with the preterite, but again, that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. So definitely get in a pluperfect, get in the perfect, get in the imperfect. Talk about how something was for a long time in the past. And as for the future, use both of them as well. Use the irá infinitive and also the future verb endings. So then you can show irá, whatever, is for short term and definite things, and the ending is for more hope, wish-washy, but most likely going to happen plans. Definitely use the conditional. And that's another thing. The conditional and also the ending future, the proper future, and your opinions can easily be put in set phrases to trigger the subjunctive. The subjunctive is one for definitely killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You'll probably learn in your lesson all the different ways in which you can trigger the subjunctive. Your teacher will have probably shown you those set sentences that start with either si, if, or cuando, when, with a phrase in the subjunctive. And then, if starting with si would have the conditional, if starting with cuando would have the proper future, the one with the endings. And then the last thing is trying to remember all of those irregular verbs. All the most basic used ones all the time are usually irregular. Tener, hacer, ser, estar, dar. Definitely ser and estar and tener are gonna probably be used more than 5 times each. But also think of ways to get in those other irregular verbs to show off that you know that not all the verbs follow the patterns. And one big group of irregular verbs you can easily get in are the radical changes. Jugar, pensar, perder, there's loads of them. Get in a few of them. So that is all my tips for grammar points and little things to remember for your GCSE Spanish essay. Te espero buena suerte con vuestros temas españoles y adiós.